After 10 days stranded far from home, all 52 passengers from the ship stuck in Antarctic ice have now been transferred by helicopter to an Australian icebreaker. It's 100% we're off. A huge thanks to all, tweeted Chris Turney, an Australian professor among the group of scientists, journalists, and tourists marooned on the ship. A helicopter from a nearby Chinese icebreaker ferried passengers Thursday to the Australian icebreaker, the Aurora Australis. The rescue is the latest chapter in a saga that began Christmas Eve after the Russian flag and the academic Shklovsky got stuck in unusually thick ice. Officials abandoned a succession of other rescue attempts in recent years because of the treacherous conditions in the region. Earlier Thursday, Australian authorities had said a plan involving the helicopter and a barge was put on hold because of shifting ice conditions. But the new approach, which skipped the use of the barge, got underway later in the day. Chinese posted videos showing the helicopter arriving on a makeshift helipad on the ice near the trapped ship and taking off into the crisp blue sky. Robert Darville, chef mate on the Aurora Australis, told CNN that the 52 new passengers on board were very happy to be there and kept thanking the icebreaker's crew for their efforts. They are on their second dinner of the night right now, he said. It will still be weeks before the research team makes it to the Australian port of Hobart, said John Young of the Australian Maritime Safety Authority. Mid-January is our best guess, Young told reporters on a conference call. The Aurora Australis is still expected to complete a resupply mission to Casey Station, an Australian base in Antarctica, before making its way to Hobart. Darville said that now all the passengers are on the Aurora Australis. The vessel will try to move out of the heavy pack ice and into more open water, but he said they will not set off toward Casey Station until the Rescue Coordination Center of Australia gives them the green light. Darville also thanked the captain of Chinese icebreaker whose help made the rescue possible. Thank you very much for your cooperation. Your crew has done the lion's share of the work and make Australia and much of the world proud, he said. Meanwhile, the master of the academic Shklovsky has decided to keep the 22 Russian crew members on board the stranded ship until the pack ice eventually breaks up and allows it to move again, Yang said. The vessel has enough supplies to keep the crew going for a very long time, he said. The helicopter rescue followed a failed attempt by the Chinese icebreaker, the Shelong, which made it 6 nautical miles from the trapped vessel before being stopped by especially thick ice. That was followed by an effort by the Australian icebreaker, which was forced Monday to suspend efforts to reach the expedition because of bad weather. The Aurora Australis got within 10 nautical miles of the ship before it turned back. Over the weekend, the Maritime Agency called off an effort by the French icebreaker astrolable. The exploits of the research crew have gone viral, thanks in large part to Twitter and YouTube posts by those aboard the stranded vessel. Cherney, the leader of an research expedition on the academic Shokowski, has tweeted photos of the stranded ship, the crew, and penguins which have stopped by to check out their new neighbors. The group even managed to ring in 2014 with good cheer. We are the AAE who have traveled far, having fun doing science in Antarctica. A dozen or so of them sang in a video posted on YouTube. Lots of snow and lots of ice, lots of penguins, which are very, very nice. Really good food and company, but a bloody great shame we are still stuck here. Ice core, cha-cha-cha, ice core, cha-cha-cha. Cherney's expedition to gang the effects of climate change on the region began on November 27. The second and current leg of the trip started on December 8 and was scheduled to conclude with a return to New Zealand on Saturday. The vessel got stuck in the ice 15 days after setting out on the second leg. Cherney, a climate change professor at the University of New South Wales, has said the ship was surrounded by ice up to nearly 10 feet, 3 meters thick. At least 14 injured in blast fire in Minneapolis apartment building. An explosion and fire at a 3-story apartment building in Minneapolis Wednesday left at least 14 people hospitalized, 6 critically, fire officials said. 3 residents were believed to be missing and could still be inside. Freezing weather conspired with heavy flames to hamper efforts to rescue victims and fight the fire. Minneapolis fire chief John Fruto said. Some horrified residents may have fallen or jumped from the burning building, which also housed a grocery store that serves as a gathering place for the area's growing Somali community. This is a community that's been through a lot, outgoing Mayor Artie Rybeck said. People who come to live in this part of our city often have gone through horrendous things. They came here for peace and for safety. An explosion was reported about 8:15 a.m. and the building was soon engulfed in flames, officials said. At the time, the temperature at Minneapolis St. Paul Airport, about 5 miles from fire, was minus 4 degrees Fahrenheit, with a wind chill of minus 80 degrees F. Authorities said earlier Wednesday morning. Wind chills were as low as minus 24 F. The streets were slick and icy, flooded and frozen over at the same time. Bright flames 2 stories high shot up from the frozen gray landscape. Water gushed from windows, forming icicles on the frames. The building and surrounding trees were coated with layers of ice. Firefighters in Minneapolis are used to tough weather in the winter. Fruto said, ice and water don't mix well. Certainly, we are concerned about the condition of firefighters and are monitoring that. Frostbite can happen very quickly, so we are rotating in personnel as needed. Most of the injuries were from burns and the trauma of people that came out through the windows, said Robert Bowe, a spokesman for Hennepin County Emergency Medical Services. Officials don't know whether people jumped out, fell, or were pushed out by the explosion. One image from CNN affiliate WCCO showed a badly burned man being lifted out of a window. Abdi Warsam, a city council member-elect, called on members of the Somali community to come together to aid the wounded and displaced. I want the East African community to take leadership and take ownership of this issue, specifically with regards to helping the victims, he said. Farah M., a relative of the owner of the grocery store, said the small business was a popular gathering place. It was a gathering center, he said. We started from scratch and we will make it again. A mosque next door to the building appeared to escape damage. In a statement, Governor Mark Dayton said, "On behalf of our Minnesotans, I extend my deepest sympathies to the victims of today's awful fire in Minneapolis and to their families and friends. We hope and pray for your swift and complete recoveries. I'd also want to thank the state troopers, Minneapolis police officers, firefighters, and other first responders who endangered themselves to save the lives of those engulfed by this terrible tragedy." The three-story buildings were destroyed, with the roof and the second and third floors collapsing, Fruto said. The first floor contained a store. Above it was 10 residential units, 9 of which would have been occupied at the time, he said. Authorities did not know immediately how many people lived in those units. The blaze raged for hours. At first, firefighters tried to enter the building but had to retreat because of the heat, officials said. The cause of the fire was under investigation. This is a Minneapolis tragedy, Ryback said. This is a Minnesota tragedy. We would like everyone who can help to help. South Sudan's president declares state of emergency. South Sudan's president declared a state of emergency Wednesday ahead of peace talks to stop the latest violence in the country. President Salva Kiir issued the declaration of the State of Unity and Jonglei, which include the rebel-held towns for Bor and Bentiu, the scene of recent fighting and scores of civilian deaths. State radio also reported that Kiir ordered the formation of a negotiating team to take part in the peace talks in Ethiopia. The government delegation includes key opposition figures as required in the presidential decree, state radio reported. Representatives from the warring parties in South Sudan will arrive in Ethiopia on Wednesday for talks aimed at ending the violence wrecking the nation. The United Nations Special Representative to South Sudan said. Hild Johnson, who heads to the UN mission to South Sudan, said she wanted to see both parties take a decisive step to cease all hostilities starting Wednesday. We want to make this day the day that the violence stops, she told a news conference in the South Sudanese capital, Juba. Kiir and the rebels' leader, former Vice President Riek Machar, agreed Tuesday to send delegations to the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa, homes of the African Union, for peace talks after 2 weeks of violence. As a cessation of hostilities between their forces is expected to the top agenda. Johnson said it was too early to say if the move was a breakthrough, but it is a step in the right direction. The African Union has set up a group to investigate human rights abuses, Johnson said, which met for the first time Tuesday. She stressed the need for people to be held accountable for their actions, and for a community-based reconciliation process to run alongside the peace talks. There has been killing and brutality. We have seen killing on the ethnic grounds. We need to do everything to prevent the cycle of violence, Johnson said. I condemn elements on both sides. The Intergovernmental Authority on Development, an East African trade bloc that has been helping to mediate between the battling parties, has said an independent body is needed to monitor any ceasefire, Johnson said. Leaders of the bloc warned Friday that they would take action to stop the conflict if South Sudan's warring factions didn't lay down their arms. The spiraling violence has sparked a humanitarian crisis in the world's newest nation. About 118,000 people have been displaced nationwide by more than 2 weeks of conflict, Johnson said. Peacekeepers are working to protect the camps where tens of thousands of civilians have fled, but more resources are needed, she said. She appealed for $166 million in aid to help provide families with food and other emergency relief. Anti-government forces were not targeting UN bases in the country, Johnson added. The fighting began on December 15 after Kiir, from South Sudan's Dinka ethnic group, accused troops loyal to Machar from the Nuer community of trying to launch a coup. The two men have long been political rivals, and Kiir dismissed Machar along with the cabinet in July. Kiir told CNN on Monday the African nations should have acted quickly to help quell the rebel forces. As soon as an attempted coup took place and violence broke out, the original leaders and all African leaders should have come in with military support so that the rebels would have been crushed once and for all, he said. The two sides clashed Tuesday in the key town of Bor, capital of oil-rich Jonglei State, which had already changed hands last week. However, the situation was quiet there Wednesday, Johnson said. Fighting has also halted in Malako, the capital of Upper Nile State, which may be a positive sign, she said. United Nations forces are patrolling the streets of Juba in order to protect civilians, she said. More than 160 police officers arrived in the past 3 days, with an additional 240 expected Wednesday and more in the next 2 weeks. The UN mission to South Sudan on Tuesday voiced grave concern over mounting evidence of gross human rights abuses in the strife-torn country, including extrajudicial killings of civilians and captured soldiers, massive displacements, and arbitrary detentions, often on ethnic grounds. Its statement cited the discovery of large numbers of bodies in Juba, as well as in Malako and Bor. Available evidence indicates that atrocities are continuing to occur in various parts of South Sudan, it said. Many of these violations appear to be ethnically targeted. Most of the more brutal atrocities are reported to have been carried out by people wearing uniform. South Sudan formally split from Sudan in 2011 after a referendum. Following the case of conflict, numerous armed groups remain active in the oil-rich country. Murder most foul, giant rubber duck burst in Taiwan. A giant yellow duck on display at Taiwan's Keelung port is finding little to be happy about this New Year's Day. The famed 18-meter inflatable art installation created by Dutch artist Florentin Hoffman burst and deflated on Tuesday, leaving locals shocked and disappointed. The duck's demise came only 11 days after it arrived in Keelung City Harbor, the latest in a multi-city Taiwan tower for the celebrity bird. There are multiple theories as to what led to the New Year's Eve tragedy. Murder most foul, according to Taiwan media reports. One tourist claims she saw what looked like an eagle scratch the rubber duck with its talons. If that's indeed the case, jealousy could very well have been the motivation behind this unprovoked attack. Meanwhile, a meteorologist speculates an unseasonal dose of sunshine may have overheated the duck, disrupting its internal pressure after weeks of cold, rainy conditions, leading to its rupture. We want to apologize to the fans of the yellow rubber duck, said Keelung City Council Speaker Huang Jingta while addressing media. We haven't found the cause of the burst. We will carefully examine the duck to determine the cause. Fortunately for fans, the city says it plans to borrow another copy of the floating art installation, due to be installed by Saturday at the earliest. A turbulent past. Versions of the famous duck have previously taken up temporary residence in cities all over the world, including Beijing, Osaka, Sydney, Sao Paulo, and Amsterdam. After stirring up a craze in Hong Kong in May and June, followed by a 2-month stint in Beijing, the 18-meter inflatable duck arrived in Taiwan in September. It was dark at Kaohsiung City until October 20, before floating to Taoyuan, then its recent spot in Keelung in northern Taiwan. Tuesday's deflation is the latest in a string of unfortunate duck-related incidents. In May of 2013, Hong Kong's version of the giant duck mysteriously lost its mojo one night, leaving its deflated yellow shell bobbing lifelessly in Victoria Harbour. In late October, the Taoyuan version deflated and exploded during an attempt to re-inflate it. In 2009, during a port call in Belgium, it was stabbed 42 times by a vandal. We don't know why the person did it, artist Hoffman said in an earlier interview with CNN, but the incident brought the people of that town together. The community had a stake out at night and protected it, and even the police looked after it. It shows that this piece of art means a lot to people in the vicinity of this work. Thousands detained by Russian police after Volgograd attacks. Russian police detained dozens of people in an anti-terror sweep in Volgograd, the southern city where two suspected suicide bombings killed more than 30 people this week. Thousands of police officers searched hundreds of people following the attack on Sunday and Monday at a rail station and on a trolley bus just 6 weeks before Russia is due to host the Winter Olympics. The death toll from the attacks increased to 34 when some of those hurt died from their injuries, state media reported. Separately, Australia announced limits on the movement of its athletes for Sochi Games. The blast in Volgograd intensified fears of terrorism following a threat earlier this year from the Chechen extremist group to use maximum force to disrupt the Olympic in February. No group has claimed responsibility for the attacks described as suspected suicide bombings. In his New Year's address, Russian President Vladimir Putin acknowledged problems in 2013, but said the Russian people had a lot to look forward to in 2014. He also had a message for terrorists. We bow our heads to the victims of violent terrorist attacks. We will continue the fight against terrorists certainly, fiercely and consistently until their complete annihilation, he said in the address in Russian TV. In Volgograd, a strong security presence was on the streets leading to New Year's Eve celebrations. Australia said Tuesday that none of its athletes competing in the Olympics will travel to Sochi using ground transportation in Russia. They will only travel by air. Australian athletes will only train and compete in Sochi and won't vacation elsewhere in Russia after the Games, said John Coates, the president of the Australian Olympic Committee. Families of athletes and all other participants of the Olympic Games, including media and spectators, should note the steps we are taking for the safety and welfare of our athletes. Coates said in a statement on the committee's website. He nonetheless echoed comments from the International Olympic Committee expressing confidence that Russian authorities will do everything to ensure the security of the athletes and all of the participants of the Olympic Games. While security in Sochi and its surrounding area is considered to be very tight, the attacks in Volgograd, a major transportation hub for southern Russia, have raised concern about the potential vulnerability of other areas of the country. Volgograd is a main transit point for people traveling by train to Sochi, which is situated just over 400 miles to the southwest. The number of people killed in an explosion at the Volgograd's main rail station Sunday now stands at 18, the state-run news agency RIA Novosti reported Tuesday, citing the emergencies ministry. The toll from a blast on the trolleybus during the morning rush hour Monday has reached 16, the agency said, attributing the information to health officials. Russian authorities have described both explosions as terrorist attack and vow to continue their tough and consistent offensive against extremists. About 5,200 police officers are now on the ground in Volgograd for an anti-terrorism operation. Andrei Pilachuk, a regional police official, said on Russian television. Police are checking people's documents in all crowded areas of the city and have so far detained 87 people who put up resistance or didn't have documents allowing them to carry weapons, Pilachuk said. But it wasn't clear if any of those held any suspected connection to the attacks or would face any charges. A total of 1,500 buildings have been examined and more than 1,000 people have been searched in the operation, Pilachuk said. The United States has offered its full support to the Russian government in security preparations for the Sochi Olympic Games, National Security Council spokeswoman Kathleen Hayden said in a statement Monday. We will welcome the opportunity for closer cooperation for the safety of the athletes, spectators, and other participants, Hayden said. The U.S. State Department said American citizens planning to attend the Games should be reminded that threats have been made against the Olympic Games and acts of terrorism, including bombings, continue to occur in Russia. This is an exciting, positive, happy international sporting event, but people going there do need to maintain vigilance and watch out for their own security and safety, Marie Harf, a State Department spokeswoman, said at the regular briefing Monday. Harf said the department was very focused on the security situation in Russia, but she declined to say whether any additional measures had been taken since the Volgograd bombings.